You really have to differentiate.
Yeah.
If you want to get, the KPIs that you want to crush, you want to engage the consumer.
Welcome to the Marketing Automation Hustle podcast, where we break down the essential strategies of email marketing and automation to help e-commerce brands hyper-personalize their customer journey and increase sales on autopilot. So get ready to automate your marketing like a pro with Sendlane's brand marketing manager and your host, Caitlin Hutchinson.
Hey, podcast listeners, thanks so much for joining us today for another awesome episode of the Marketing Automation Hustle. And before we dive into the full episode that I have ahead for you today, I first want to let you guys know that we have officially launched EECOM Email Academy. That is up and running, and you can go ahead and enroll in that now at ecomemailacademy.com/podcast and learn how to build an engaging relationship with your customers, grow your online sales, and increase your customer LTV on autopilot. Plus, we'll show you how email marketing can generate 30 to 40% of your monthly revenue. It's a course you definitely want to check out as an e-commerce marketer, and you can do that at ecomemailacademy.com/podcast. So today's episode is all about enhancing your email marketing content and increasing your interactivity in your emails. So of course, I've invited Randy Levy here. He's the SVP of Sales at Zamboula, and they're a platform that allows you to create dynamic and personalized email elements for your email campaigns. So welcome, Randy. Thanks so much for joining us from New York today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I wish I was in San Diego, but New York's not so bad. We're expecting a pretty big downpour, but I'm sure San Diego's a lot nicer.
Yes, I can't say it's pretty good out here. It's about, I'd say, 73 and sunny today, so no complaints.
Goldilocks.
Yeah, we're spoiled out here. So,
yes.
Before we kind of dive into our whole convo, just explain to us a little bit what Zamboula is, just for our listeners who aren't familiar with the product.
Yeah, sure. So Zamboula used to be called Scratch It. Mm-hmm. We basically revolutionized and digitized the lottery ticket to use that psychology and FOMO to just generate a whole lot more engagement using like FOMO to get people to interact. So it's very tactile. It's very cool. It's called reveal marketing. And that's what Zamboula means in Zulu, reveal.
Okay.
And then we're launching a ton of new products, but I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go. But that's where we got our start.
Okay. And how did you kind of get started with the business?
So with Zamboula, I met the founders at the Email Insider Summit in Utah a bunch of years back when I was in the deliverability space. And it was kind of love at first sight. I just love what they were doing, and I would have taken the job on the spot if the timing was right. But luckily, the timing turned out right at the beginning of this year. So I've been contributing to the company for the last almost a year now.
Awesome. And can you dive in a little bit more with kind of the different features of Zamboula, just so we really give a visual to people that are listening of what it does? Because I know I've seen, the scratch it kind of element that you can put in your email to kind of, it's like a scratch and reveal your coupon type of idea, correct?
Yes, that's kind of one angle. So yeah, think of the lottery ticket. So imagine getting an email from you. One of your clients sends out an email, and they put a snippet of code within their email to render the scratch off. If you're an apparel company, you'll probably want to use a zipper to get into the reveal. And the reveal can be a coupon, it could be a sweepstakes, it could be content. It's just really to get folks engaged. And if you're on your computer, you're obviously using your mouse, but if you're on your phone, it's super tactile. You're using your finger to scratch it off, to unzip or to peel things. So like people really dig it from an email perspective because they've never seen it before. And then the folks who want to kind of 20x their list, they'll put these gamified kinetic components on their website instead of the standard, hey, give us your email for 15% off. That was best practice in 1999 when I got into the space. So that's kind of one component of the solution. That goes back 6 years. That we've been doing for years. What we just launched today is the point of open personalization, which is super cool. So think of Sendlane. Obviously, you're creating an email and you're building all the segmentations on the fly before you send it out. But there's a ton of functionality and a ton of fun that can be had if you can adjust the entire message at the point of open. So, for example, it's pouring here, it's 73 degrees there. If you've got an apparel brand who's sending to folks in San Diego, you should probably send them like a bathing suit. Like that image should change and it should be a bathing suit. For me, it's pouring rain. Give me a poncho, give me an umbrella, like sell me that stuff so it's more relevant. That's just tip of the iceberg in terms of weather. There are tons of other functionality that, we can certainly talk about a bit more, but I think that gives you a basis and a visual of what we can do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that idea. It kind of takes that hyper personalization to the next level.
Yes, exactly.
And the interactive, I will say, because I've, checked it out as well. And that interactive part of being able to scratch and do something inside of an email is very cool. And I definitely see technology just going even further in that direction. And it seems like you guys are kind of the pioneers in this space.
Yeah. We started 6 years ago. I mean, the engagement and the interactivity within those emails, we're 3 to 10xing click-throughs, whereas most brands are seeing those numbers dip.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty fun space. And having been at it for 6 years, we're seeing a ton of companies copying us, which is bound to happen. The best form of flattery.
Exactly. So it's a compliment.
It's all good. Yes, that's how I see it.
So do you guys have e-commerce businesses? Because, we're really focused on e-commerce specifically for this podcast. Have you guys had experience with e-commerce brands using your tool and kind of make a change for them in their own marketing efforts?
Oh, without a doubt.
They're really seeing the results.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of apparel clients. We've got hotels. We have one of the biggest cell phone companies, one of the biggest hospitality companies that all of our kids, if we've got kids, they go there or they want to go there. But yeah, they're all really enamored by the engagement angle. So years ago is, when we first got started, it was all about surprise and delight. Creating that engagement, just, again, the fear of missing out of that scratch it. If you don't get into it, you're not going to see what the offer is.
Yeah.
And then we've got those same companies, whether they're putting it in their email or whether they're putting it on the website, like you could scratch off, you could peel stuff on the website. Again, it's just to foster that engagement. Have you ever heard of the IKEA effect?
I think I have, but remind me.
So have you ever shopped at IKEA? Have you ever built one of those things?
100%. I have single-handedly built some very large IKEA pieces by myself, and what an adventure.
Right. Most of the time, I always find a few screws loose, but that goes without saying. But when you put that kind of time in, all of a sudden that perceived value is much higher. And that's what the scratch it component that we have, that's what it's building. It's building that value of the brand. And at the end of the day, that's what these brands need to stand out, because they're not really competing with their competitors anymore.
Yeah.
They're really competing with the onslaught and the tyranny that can be email. So you really want to create really cool, hypnotic, fun, engaging content. And that's where the scratch it component kind of took off. And then our clients were asking us for all the point of open stuff. And Zamboula has really spoiled me, like some of my old companies in my 19-year email career. Like when clients asked us to do things and we get it done in a couple of days or a week or a couple of weeks in a lot of instances, like that's exciting for me.
Yeah, that's
being able to contribute to brands based upon their needs.
Totally. And that's not easy to pull off either. You need the resources to be able to do that. So that's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's awesome. So I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned earlier on just kind of the psychology of this. And I'm sure as a company that's really focused on trying to engage people's customers and leads, that there is a psychology aspect behind this whole, you said it was initially kind of a surprise element. So how are you guys kind of using that human psychology to kind of drive your product and create a need for it?
Yeah, great question. So if we go back to the scratch it component where we've got, the most tenure, it's seeing that image within the email or on the website kind of moving.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do have to educate folks on what to do, because in a lot of instances, they've never seen it before.
Yeah.
But when they do see it and they get, scratch this off. And if they're on their phone, they're curious. So, anyone who's curious wants to kind of learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And the psychology behind it is, well, if I don't scratch it off, if I don't peel it to reveal what that offer is or whatever that sweepstakes is, it's creating that FOMO.
Yeah. So you're kind of combining curiosity plus fear of missing out for people. And I love that it works so well on your phone, because most of us are doing everything almost solely on our phone. The only time I'm really even on desktop is when I'm at work. Other than that, I'm constantly on my phone, and I love the idea of just being able to do it with your finger, I'm assuming is how that works.
That's exactly how it works. It's so fun, because every time I go to a trade show and people ask me what I do, it's so much more fun just holding up my monster iPhone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you do it. And then as they're kind of scratching it off, I'll show you the phone. They're scratching it off on their phone.
Uh-huh.
You just see a very, very large grin on their face, like they're a 10-year-old in Times Square.
Yeah.
It's just because they've never seen anything like it before. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, we love cool stuff, cool new stuff.
Yes.
So I also wanted to ask you, just because this kind of is a newer thing, why do you think there's such a need for something like this that's a little bit more of an interactive experience, especially combined with email? Because we're so used to email just kind of being what it is, being just a message that you get, you read it and you click. And now you guys are kind of introducing there's more than just reading and clicking. You're actually being asked to do something within that message.
Absolutely. And that's the differentiator. Because look, I've been in the space. Well, I got my start in the 90s when I ran a restaurant. My list was about 9 people on AOL. So you can imagine what that was.
Good old AOL.
Yes, it was a text-based email. Pretty flat, pretty boring. But at the end of the day, back then, it was pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
And I've been signing up for email since 2000 when I got my start in the ESP space. And I looked at my Yahoo account from back then, and surprisingly, it wasn't shut down or it didn't get turned into like a deliverability honeypot. But I had 198,000 messages in there.
Wow.
And I hadn't opened up an email in 10 years from leading brands that we've all heard of. So it's, they're still stuck in sending more. I think sending less. And just sending better messaging and interactive messaging. And nowadays, all the emails are moving a little bit, which is cool. The kinetic approach to email.
With GIFs and everything as well.
That's awesome. But you really have to differentiate.
Yeah.
If you want to get, the KPIs that you want to crush, you want to engage the consumer.
Exactly.
And we're an entitled bunch now. We expect a lot.
Yeah. Like you said, we expect our, brands that we interact with, we expect them to know us. And that's really a topic that comes up on honestly every episode, regardless of what our focus is. It always comes back to having that personalization. And I love what you mentioned about kind of the quality over quantity. Because I think for a lot of brands, it's like, got to get an email out, got to send that promo out, got to do a product launch, but there's not as much thought as to the actual content of the message and how it speaks to the person that's opening it. So I feel like that's a recurring theme because that's just where we're at now.
Yeah, and look, the email marketers are slammed. They're one-person teams. They're doing a lot of work, and their C-level is saying, send more.
Mm-hmm.
And the consumers send less and send better. So it's a conundrum.
Yeah.
So, we're hoping to solve that conundrum, with the way that we go about the email marketing space.
So I wanted to ask you, I was kind of going through the website actually, before we started chatting, and it looks like there are some more things on here you guys have added pretty recently.
Yes. So
Since
we
last
launched
time I was on the website, I actually went on it today and I felt like I was looking at a whole new website almost.
You were.
Okay.
You were.
All right.
You were.
I was like, this is not the Zamboula I remember looking at.
No, very different today. I think we launched the new website yesterday.
Oh,
And then
okay.
today
Okay.
we
So
launched
I was like, wow, I'm really
all
behind.
the new tools.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was thrilled to see it because really the new tools are really super exciting in terms of the new stuff that our clients are going to be able to do.
Yeah, it looks awesome. The website is great. I was wondering if
Thank you.
you could educate me as well on some of the newer features that you guys have going on the website.
I would love to. Music to my ears. All right. So we don't have a lot of time, but I'll try to breeze through some of it. So
just mainly the things that can really be a help to e-commerce and kind of real world situations that those could be applied to, just so our listeners know how they can use this in the real world for themselves.
Absolutely. All right. So the one angle which, certainly your users could use, but it's really with the end user in mind, is something called abandoned cart, shipping confirmations.
Oh, okay.
So, when you order something and you're like, all right, here's your UPS, your FedEx number, click back, go to a different website, destroy your deliverability.
Yep.
We don't want to do any of that. Mm-hmm. What we want to do when I buy something, I want to know exactly where my package is. So if I open that email 3 days later, or you send me another email, just a regular email, but within that email, there's a little content block that says, hey, now your package is 3 miles away, or it's at the fulfillment center. Like, there's no clicking back. So you're not wasting the end user's time. So you're creating just a better message, and just a consumer that appreciates, like,
so it's directly in the message versus having to click out and follow a few different links to find out where your package is.
Correct. So it's point of open, totally changes dynamically depending upon when they open it.
That's awesome, because I do a lot of online shopping. Not that my husband necessarily loves it all the time, but it happens. So I do find that kind of to be annoying when I have to click like 3 different links just to find my shipping info. So just for me personally, that's awesome.
Yeah, that and historically, it's been too costly to run these programs with the point of open providers. And that's certainly another differentiation. Like, we're basically a fraction of the price because we built it in 2019, not 2012. So super thrilled with that. What else can I tell you about the point of open stuff from an e-commerce perspective? I kind of shared the weather angle. So shifting images based upon the weather.
Love that.
Very, very simple stuff. For folks who have brick and mortar, who have a couple of stores or thousands of stores, you can include a live map. So if we both get an email and Nick gets one too, and we're all looking at it, and it was created on the front end, you did the personalization through you guys on the front end. 3 of us open it and we're all in different cities. If we're close enough to one of their stores, well, it could pop open a map, or it could display that location dynamically within the image. And then boom, we can click on the map and get our directions because we're all on our phones, and we can get there. Now, there'll be a fallback image if we're somewhere where we're not even close to a store. So that fallback would be an image of, just buy it online.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that kind of blows me away. And then look, there's the personalization angle. We're all familiar with, dear first name, but you can now personalize the images. With names, with content. You can pull it from any data source you want without massive technical resources to do it. So I think one of the caveats and one of the really cool things the way that we built our Reveal Scratch It technology is the same way we kind of looked at the point of open space. We want to make it very easy for the marketer. We don't want them to go through 4 months of implementation to put a map in your emails.
Yes.
Which, believe it or not, is quite common.
Yeah.
So we've got a very easy to use UI, and all they have to do is kind of drag and drop the personalization aspects into the emails themselves.
Wow.
And they could pull it from their email provider. They could pull it from a Shopify, a Magento, wherever they have that data.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make it very easy to do. And then the last component, sorry if I'm taking too long on this one.
You're fine.
Oh, cool. Is abandoned cart emails. Like we all get them. You go, you put something in your cart, then you ditch it. And a lot of people do it tactically to get the discount, which totally makes sense, especially for emailers like us. We know.
Yeah,
we know all the.
I know I'm going to wait for that third abandoned cart email when they give me 10% off. Like,
Right.
It's someone that works in this space, it's a shame if I'm not waiting out for that one.
Yes, you just need a little patience. So you can, again, a little content block in the body of the email, you could display what was left in the cart. And I almost forgot probably the coolest thing, loyalty programs. Most companies should have them. Some are still in the dark ages and don't. But when you have a loyalty program, like you look at Amazon, for example, I've done a ton of research on Amazon and their order confirmations. And everybody with a loyalty program basically just doubled their revenue over time.
Wow.
But you could throw in points. So like, if I open up every single one of my emails and I see points like, oh, I've got 1,000 points, I've got 200,000 points on American Airlines, like I might use it. And just seeing that without having to like go into my phone and say, or logging in, signing up and saying, oh, okay, I do have those points. So it could be in every email, especially now that we brought the cost down.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you guys are just providing so many different elements to really optimize email content and keep it really relevant. Because I feel like there's so many aspects to it, from just it sounds like the tool is just great for building a relationship with your customers, because they know that you are A, paying attention to what they're looking at and what they're interested in, but B, you're making the purchase experience so much easier when all you have to do is basically click and purchase out of an email. And I think that's huge now, because especially in 2019 going into 2020, we need things right now, and we want everything to be easy. And yes. I know for myself, even if I'm on my phone, say I'm looking for a certain pair of shoes, if I click one of the websites that pair of shoes is on and it doesn't load fast enough, I'm out. Like, we're just that impatient now because we can be. So I love that you guys have created something where it's kind of right there in the palm of your hand in the email. And it just creates another space that's almost like I'm looking at these emails on your guys' website right now, and I love that they kind of look like mini websites within the email. And I think that's a really cool idea that you guys have going. It's kind of... And sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. So, and just to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, like the email client is almost caught up with the browser. Mm-hmm. So now you could do a ton more stuff. Caitlin, am I allowed to switch it up and ask you a question?
Oh, 100%. This is a two-way conversation.
Perfect. So like, you've heard of experiential shopping. Like I loathe going shopping.
Oh,
I just don't like it.
I can't. I've tried, and I leave pretty quickly because I don't have the patience.
None. Zero. And I think none of us do. But if there's an event that's going on, and not to say they have to bribe you with like cookies and wine and all this other stuff, but like the experiential stuff, and getting people to the local store, the local pop-up. So with this live point of open stuff, you can do some of that too, to get you and I into the place that we don't really want to go to. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, is that something that you're in? Like you'll go to, or it doesn't matter, you just loathe shopping too?
No, I think it totally, I think it definitely is. It just goes back to what we talked about that being tailored to the person opening the message. If it's a brand that I really love, I will totally keep up with them and be interested in their events. I think it just depends on your relationship with the brand, which again goes back to making the effort to build a good relationship with your customers, so that you can take it the next step further and get them even more interested in your offering, because they already trust you and love your product.
And that's the name of the game.
Yeah. So I love this. It's so cool. I love all these new features you guys have. It was kind of perfect timing that you just updated the website yesterday, right before our podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I got a
I love
little
it.
chance to kind of peek at everything beforehand. But yeah, I think it's a really great angle that you guys have going, and I feel like it's only going to continue to go that direction as we become more advanced, because we already know email's not going anywhere. We talk about it all the time. E-commerce brands that really know how to use email and really create that interactive strategy, it can drive 30 to 40% of their monthly revenue if you're doing it right.
Correct. That's why I still love email. It works. There's a lot of shiny objects out there, social, Facebook, and all that's important.
Yeah.
But email is still king, and it is still the killer app.
Totally.
The original killer app.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I love when people kind of, when they ask me what I do, and I'm sure you get this as well, a lot of times it's like, email? Really? Email? And I think
Right.
if you're not in this marketing space, you don't really realize that it's still totally relevant. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
So
Facebook tried. They thought they could get rid of us.
Yeah, and exactly.
Can't be done.
And it's something, again, it's something that you own. Whereas, it's great to be on social media and everything. And it's great to, try different things out and see what works. But at the end of the day, you can't control those channels. You can control email. It's your list. They're your subscribers. It's your content. There's so much more control and ownership over it versus other rented spaces.
Yes. I think that I've watched a few of the other podcasts, and I've learned a ton, by the way.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes. But it's like, most brands, they like revenue, not likes.
Yeah.
And email will always, will always.
And that's not to
garnish
say
that.
you can't have a huge, social following and great success on social media. But if you're ignoring your email list, you're missing out on a lot of huge potential. So thank you so much for being here, Randy, being on our little podcast. And before we wrap up our chat, I do want to give you a chance to let our listeners know where to go to sign up, how they can get started, because I'm sure we're going to have people that are really interested to check you guys out. Yeah,
so come to the website, the brand new website, as you like. I can't believe how fast this went, by the way.
I know. Well, it's easy when it's someone easy to talk to that knows what they're talking about and enjoys it.
Absolutely. But come to the website, Zamboula.com, Zembula.com, or send me an email, randy@Zamboula.com. We've got a ton more functionality too, but I kind of covered, the bigger ones.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend you guys go check it out and look into it. They've got so many awesome features. If you go to their website, that's just, touching the surface just on the homepage. Great job on the website, guys, by the way. The updates look awesome. So thank you so much, Randy, for being here. I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and sharing your email expertise with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in San Diego soon.
Yes, us too. And for our listeners, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I'd also love to hear from you if you've got any feedback for me or for Randy, or maybe there's something that we touched on in this podcast that you have a little bit more interest in. Feel free to shoot me an email at caitlin@sendlane.com, and I'd be more than happy to get back to you. And of course, if you want to give Sendlane a try, go ahead and go to sendlane.net/hustle, and you can take a test drive of our platform for free. No credit card required, 14 days. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Marketing Automation Hustle.